A storm-triggered state of emergency in Dominica is discontinued. And in sport, Windies opener Craig Brathwaite and bowler Kemar Roach in the top 20 of the ICC Players Rankings. I'm Ricardo Roberts and this is Caribbean in 10 for Monday, July 9. I'll be back with the details in just a moment.
Here I have some finely chopped seasonings that I'm going to add to the batter. I have some really finely chopped onions here, so I'm just going to flake it. I like big chunks of the saltfish in the fritters or the akra, so just stir all those seasonings into the flour. Now you can add some of that green seasoning. So the akra batter has been sitting for about 45 minutes, and if you notice, it's risen a little bit, and that's because of the yeast and the baking powder in there.
Bermudan singer Amaya has previewed a new song saying, "I feel like, as a Bermudan artist, we have to recognize Bermuda's talent, whether we sing, dance, ride bikes, or build things." She did not reveal the title for the song, however, she gave a little sneak peek. Amaya, who has written and recorded many songs before, says she plans to continue her musical journey and do more with her voice and to be able to share her talent with the world.
The Dominica government this morning discontinued the state of emergency it had imposed in anticipation of Tropical Storm Beryl after the system degenerated last night. The National Hurricane Center's 11 p.m. advisory yesterday lifted the tropical storm watch that had been placed on Dominica. And in light of that, at 6 o'clock this morning, the state of emergency and the curfew, which were imposed yesterday evening, were lifted. A statement from the Cabinet Office said normal business activities recommence today. Although Beryl has dissipated, its remnants are producing locally heavy rainfall and strong gusty winds over the northwestern northeastern Caribbean Sea and the northern Leeward Islands. The Hurricane Center said this morning that the disturbance is expected to move west-northwestward for the next day or so, passing over the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico during the day and over Hispaniola in the night. It also noted that environmental conditions could become somewhat conducive for regeneration of a tropical cyclone later in the week when the system is forecast to turn northward over the Bahamas and the western Atlantic. The third named storm, Chris, formed this morning well offshore of the Carolinas in the United States, but poses no threat to the region. Angry protesters in Haiti are calling for President Jovenel Moïse to step down amid violent protests against a steep hike in fuel prices imposed by government. At least 4 people were killed during the demonstrations. Protesters set fire to cars and blocked roads in the capital Port-au-Prince as well as other towns. Widespread violence forced the government to suspend the fuel price hike. Prime Minister Jacques-Guy Lafortante had originally said that the country needed to raise prices to balance the budget and gave no indication he was backing down from that position. But his administration bowed to pressure after the demonstrators took to the streets in protest. The government said the price of gasoline would be increased by 38%, diesel by 47%, and kerosene would see an increase of 51%. Now, according to government officials, the fuel price rise is in compliance with an agreement made with the International Monetary Fund. Meanwhile, CARICOM says it is deeply concerned by the violent protests in member nation Haiti. In a statement, CARICOM Chairman Andrew Holness, speaking on behalf of the community, said the community deplored the loss of life, property and damage to infrastructure, and he called for restraint and an end to the protest and the violence. It added that the issues that have triggered these protests can only be resolved in an atmosphere of calm. He further stated that the community looks forward to an early return to normalcy and welcomes in the interim the support of the United Nations in monitoring the situation. Over in Trinidad and Tobago now, the Ministry of Energy is seeking overseas help as an oil well that ruptured in the Gulf of Paria continues to spew oil and gas. The ministry says the incident that occurred last Thursday near the Couva oil platform, the well has been shooting extensive hydrocarbons in the Gulf, posing serious risk to marine operations. Now, following the blowout, the Ministry of Energy reportedly requested help from the state-owned refinery Petrotrin to cap the well, but Petrotrin responded saying that the company did not have the technology to cap the well. Meanwhile, Secretary of Fishermen and Friends of the Sea, Gary Aboud, has called on mariners to stay clear of the site as it is volatile and highly flammable. It is believed that the oil spill was triggered by a recent earthquake that caused the head of the well to pop, causing emissions to spew from the surface of the seabed about 50 feet below. Stay with us. Your Midday Sport is next. West Indies opener Craig Brathwaite and Kemar Roach have surged into the top 20 of the ICC Players Rankings following outstanding performances in the just concluding opening test against Bangladesh. In the latest rankings released Saturday, Brathwaite had moved up 5 spots to be 16th in the batting charts, while Roach jumped 4 places to 20th in the bowling category. The 25-year-old Brathwaite struck 121 in the Windies' first innings of 406 at the Vivian Richards Cricket Ground in Antigua to record his 7th Test 100 in 48 matches. Stroke maker Shea Hope, who scored 67, rose 6 places to 32nd, while stylish left-hander Kieran Powell leaped 5 spots to 61st. Captain Jason Holder, meanwhile, has moved 2 places to 52nd, while Miguel Cummins, who struggled in the previous series against Sri Lanka, has gained 12 spots to be up to 55th following his 5-wicket match haul, or 5-wicket match haul. Now, speedster Shannon Gabriel has been installed at 11th, picking up an incisive 5-wicket haul in the second innings. Australian star Steve Smith, currently serving a ban from international cricket, heads an unchanged top 10. And superstar Chris Gayle fired up for the first time, smashing a half-century to help Vancouver Knights deal West Indies B their first defeat of the global T20 Canada League yesterday. Now, Gayle, who had mustered just 21 runs from his previous innings, had earlier blasted 5 fours and 4 sixes or 55 balls as he and Evan Lewis put on 50 for the opening stand after Knights were sent in. They piled up 175 for 4 of their 20 overs, with the left-handed Gayle stroking 63. West Indies B's runs chase never took flight, and they were bowled out for 140 in the final over to suffer a 35-run defeat. The Caribbean men were in early trouble when they slumped to 59 for 6 in the 8th over, but Kavim Hodge, who top scored with 43, put on a valuable 71 for the 7th wicket, with Fabian Allen on 29 to revive the innings. That's Caribbean in 10. Join us again at 6:30 for Caribbean Newsline. Good afternoon.